UFC Copenhagen was on Saturday in, Copenhagen, Denmark. The main event was a UFC middleweight contest. Not so much a title eliminator, but an important one just the same, with Jared Cannonier defeating Jack Hermansson via second-round TKO. Frankly, it wasn't even close, which is interesting to note about that, Brian Campbell, because he went into that one, Jared Cannonier did, as not an enormous underdog, but a fairly considerable one. I think like a plus 250 in a lot of places, and it wasn't very hard for him. So the question that I want to start today's show with is, what's the biggest takeaway from his win, and what does it do to the division? For me, I'll say the following. The big takeaway is, yes, you can say, wow, what a revelation this guy is at middleweight. At 35, he figured it all out. Great, good for him. And he might go on to fight Yoel Romero. God only knows what's next for him. He's going to jump a lot of slots from this. But to me, the biggest one is still really interesting. It's like, dude, let me get this straight. You're this good, and you're 35 years old, and it took you that long to figure out what the right weight was. And again, you could say, well, Frankie Edgar never fought the right weight until later on. Well, yeah, but he won a UFC title. In other words, he reached an objective level of success in that weight class, even if it was suboptimal, so much so that it didn't really matter. He just fought for another one a weight class down. He may have lost for, age or mileage or whatever. My only point being is I don't think Jared Cannonier is dumb, and certainly I don't think he doesn't understand himself. It just tells you the ingredients of success can be right in front of your nose and you never really know it. Getting with a good team. Look, does everyone need to train at the MMA Lab or American Top Team or AKA? Not necessarily. But some of them do. Some of them should. And when I first interviewed him, dude, he was an air traffic controller in Alaska. He moved down to Arizona because he was fighting at heavyweight and then light heavyweight. And not only has he gotten better, the takedown defense was phenomenal, but he just seems to understand who he is as a fighter.
That's a big part.
And as long as he does, dude, he is going to be cooking with gas. All the power is there at middleweight. All the speed is there. My biggest takeaway is, yes, he's a force to be reckoned with. And at 35, I think he still has improvement to gain.
Yeah, these are the best stories in sports, if you ask me. When people sort of figure it out late in life. Kind of my own personal story, right?
Yeah. Wait, you figured it out?
I was quite a donk for a long time, and look at, now I'm here now in this fantastic bomb shelter. My point is, look, when guys go on these sort of runs in their 30s in any sport, I mean, we saw it in boxing with a name that we don't like to talk about these days much, Carlos Baldomir. Remember him? Feather duster maker. Suddenly he's the welterweight champion and fighting Floyd on pay-per-view before he molested his own daughter, but he's locked up. You don't have to worry about that. And the point is that it takes a while. Jared Cannonier working for an airline as a 300-pound man, finding other people's contraband. Turns out he's the one hiding the heavyweight bomb inside of his right hand. And that's his asset right now, being a former heavyweight, having the power. But that only gets you so far. To beat a guy like Hermansson, who was so red hot, who seemed to be like one more win outside of a title shot. And then suddenly, we got to restructure what's going on at middleweight, and we're going to take this guy seriously. This was a great story. To do it on foreign soil, which was almost Hermansson's backyard, and do it in such a dominant fashion. You're upset. What's going on here?
He's not Danish.
Right, but
he's Swedish, Norwegian. He's not Danish.
Okay,
it's like, hey, Luke Thomas fought in Toronto, right in his backyard. Motherfucker, I'm not Canadian.
It's a virtual backyard,
You're just lumping all the whites together? Is that what you're doing now?
All the whites in Europe live so close together.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you can get on a train, you can see multiple stops in one day.
Mark Madsen was the hometown guy, which we'll talk about in just a second. But look, to your point about Hermansson, I'll be honest. I didn't understand his game plan. Now, I understood it in the bigger perspective, which was get this guy down. You saw against Glover Teixeira when Cannonier was at light heavyweight, that was a real problem for him, and he has, or at least Hermansson believes, he has, the best ground and pound in MMA. That's what he advertises. Did it not seem to you like his approach was the right one in terms of, like, on paper, if you wrote it down, it would look nice? Did it not seem frantic to you?
No.
Like, he was like, if I don't get him down now, the whole world's going to collapse.
You know what it seemed like from a macro view was that this was Jack Hermansson's close-up. This was our chance to find out, like we said, is he a real title contender? Could he do this in his virtual hometown there? But really, a main eventer in Europe trying to become sort of a brand of his own within UFC. He proved in that moment he wasn't ready for prime time. Didn't have the right sort of style. Didn't seem to fight with the right mental makeup and urgency there, and it just opened the door for this great story in Cannonier. And just to double back on that, Luke, you love when you don't know a guy's ceiling. Look, this is a topic that's going to come into play later when we break down Adesanya Whitaker. When you don't know how great a guy can be, you just get excited and find out. The fact that Cannonier's figuring this out as we are makes a great theater to watch.
And he's sort of proving, I won't say the haters wrong per se, but when he went and beat David Branch, it was like, wow, that was pretty surprising and cool, but what else is there to do? And then he fought Anderson Silva and had that weird leg kick thing and had this antagonism with the audience, and you thought, okay, well, that doesn't really tell us a whole lot either, although that's still kind of cool. But you can't say anything about this one. This was Jack Hermanson in his prime. Again, not so much in his hometown, but it wasn't like he had to travel very far for this one, right? He is as good as he is ever going to be, and he couldn't really do much to him. He did not want to exchange with Cannonier on the ground, on the feet, excuse me, and on the ground he could not control him for any amount of time that really mattered. And he just seemed to collapse once all of that. He just imploded once he realized that couldn't get done. And then of course he ate the uppercut. My only point being is, however much you want to discount the Branch win, however much you want to discount the Silva win, buddy, you cannot discount the Hermanson win. It is
you can
legit.
discount what he did at heavyweight and light heavyweight, which is not much because he's figured out the best optimum weight. And now it's like we're going to have a new conversation. Is he well-rounded enough for the very, very elites?
Yes or no? Do you want him to fight Yoel Romero next? I just think that fight makes itself.
That's going to be a great fight, yes.
Because they're going to be...
I only say because that's a tough-ass fight for him right now. But look, when you climb the ladder, you bring it on. You bring it upon yourself.
It's so funny. It's like we talk about this fight, UFC 243, which we'll get to later, all these fresh faces, right? 28-year-old Robert Whittaker, brand new 30-year-old Israel Adesanya, and yet it's some of these old dogs, right? Yoel Romero, just an incredible athletic ability, and then Cannonier finally getting all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's a fresh face. It's an old guy, but it's a fresh face. It's an interesting division right now, sort of a tale of two ages there. Anyone else from that card stand out to you?
Obviously, this was Mark O. Madsen's night. And look, I'm not as much of a donk as you are on the things like amateur wrestling and grappling. I'm sure you were rocking out to ADCC while I was listening to some ACDC over the weekend.
That's why you're a loser.
Wow, really?
No, not really. I like you. You're nice. But go ahead.
Right. By the way, you more of a Johnson or Bon Scott guy when it comes to
Bon
ACDC?
Scott, come on, player.
All right, I can get down with both, whereas, he's no Hagar. Anyway, here's the point on that. Where are we going here? Marco Madsen stepped up and showed you that he just might be ready for like real prime time. Of course, your fear for that guy is that he's going to be a little bit too wrestling heavy. Does he have as much of a well-rounded game? And certainly this was obviously not a killer of an opponent and didn't give you a long fight to really map out exactly where he is. But as far as stepping up to that moment in front of the home fans and being everything he needed to be, I think he exceeded expectations. He's got a killer, killer hammer game there. It was like playing that arcade game there. I want to see what he can be. He's in the toughest division in the sport, but when you have that sort of one dimension that's so damn strong, what can he add to that in a short amount of time? What do you know about this guy that I don't, being a non-donk?
Well, I talked to this guy who used to wrestle Bloody Elbow named Mike Reardon. He wrestled at the at VMI, I believe. No, at the Citadel, excuse me. He wrestled, which is Division I, and to me, he's always been the best writer for amateur wrestling inside MMA, like who's a guy who knew both worlds. And he tells me that the guy, if you look at his resume, Madsen's resume, it's like the Olympics, he got a silver medal, and then there's like 6 European or world championships in a row where he just got silver in all of them. Apparently there was another guy named Vlasov who was like an all-time great. So in other words, it's like at light heavyweight, how Cormier was amazing, but for John Jones, it's kind of like that. But how good is Daniel Cormier at light heavyweight? Pretty goddamn good. You mentioned that he's got the wrestling game on lock, which he does. He's got that Greco-Roman style. The Matt Lindland, the Dan Hendersons, the Randy Couture's were bringing sexy back from Greco-Roman. But
was it ever sexy? I mean, really?
Well, no, it wasn't. But the point being is look, he's not just good at that, an Olympic level at that. Dude, you notice the physicality of him?
Yes.
Like, he is another level of athletics that, even at lightweight, you don't necessarily see a whole lot of that. So he looks to be a natural. He can bang on his feet. He's got good finishing instincts. He seems strong. Even at 35 years old, another 35-year-old. Man, MMA is really weird where you get these guys from Olympic wrestling and maybe they were, okay, Henry Cejudo got the gold medal and that's great. And there's issues about how Yoel Romero got the silver medal. It's not clear if that's on the up and up, but the point being is this, I like the silver medalists. I like those guys.
They got a chip on the shoulder.
They got a chip on their goddamn shoulders, and they're better athletes than virtually. Like, what's the difference between the athletic ability of a silver medalist and a gold medalist? Typically, almost nil.
Yeah.
Very, very slight. So you take that guy, and then you give him a chip on his shoulder, and he has to go compete against donks who show up to gyms to lose weight. Boy, he's going to put knuckles to chin. That's exactly what it is.
Very similar to growing up in Marietta compared to old Marietta.
Yeah. Well, no, that's more of a class versus a state issue.
But just to finish this, I like a good ground and pounder. I like an old school guy who can finish when he gets in position on the ground. How many times do we see somebody take somebody down, get in that position, and not have those same instincts? Yes, we need to see a lot more from this guy. But talk about opening statement for somebody like me who heard the name, don't have a clue until I tune in my bed sheets there in the LA hotel Saturday morning to see this. Great to wake up on the West Coast and see a live UFC card, by the way.
Fun to watch football at 10 a.m.